I'm gonna call this podcast suboptimal because everything I see online is about optimizing, and I think I saw something about one of the podcasts. I won't mention which name it is or who it is, but everything's constantly about being your best and getting up and ice baths and waking up at 3 a.m. before everyone else is and crushing it. And all of those things just kind of, they're great. I don't get me wrong. I like to have a bit of a routine as well, but talking about that constantly is not really, doesn't really feel like it's discussing anything of any depth. That it's just to me it's oversaturated content. So I think what I'm starting to see is that human stories, human experiences are really valuable. So my suboptimal experiences might be of some value to some people out there. And I just wanted to have something that was a bit of a, you know, play on words. And I'm somewhat self deprecating. I'm not sure why that is, but I still don't think I'm a smart person. I'm not sure whether that kind of goes back to high school days. I've made a lot of notes about this, but I feel like it came back to when I was in high school back in Australia and studying chemistry. And I chose chemistry because I thought it would be a cool subject to study, but wasn't, and I'm still not very good with numbers and processing that kind of information and equations and what have you. And I really struggled with that. And the teacher was not very understanding towards those types of people who struggled. He wanted the best of the best. I get that because he's trying to, I guess make himself look good or feel proud of the work that he's doing. But I felt like that in that movie Whiplash, if you were slow or too fast or tried to overshadow him in any way or undermine what he was doing, he would come down on you like a ton of bricks. And this teacher one day asked me to do sorry, I'm going into a bit of a story, but it's an interesting story. It's part of my life, and it kind of ties into the reason why I'm calling the podcast Suboptimal. So yeah, he asked me to do some. I can't remember what it is. You've got to make a chemical thing with some equation and do it from one side to the other side. I got called up to the board to show my equations, and I just had no idea what to do. No idea where to start, what the process was, and how to get the answer at the end. And I said that, I'm sorry, I don't know. After standing there for a minute or so, it felt like a lifetime. I still kind of remember it pretty vividly. And he called me out, called me stupid, those types of things in front of everyone, and everyone had a bit of a laugh. But then after, he dragged me outside of the classroom, and everyone's doing their coursework or whatever. And he pushed me up against the wall and choke slammed me, saying, "What are you doing here? Like, you're wasting everyone's time. You're wasting my time. You're a loser." Those types of things. And needless to say, it scared the life out of me. And I think that those types of moments have led me to feeling very kind of self-deprecating, even though academically since then I've found my niche in more of that writing and researching experiences and living an experience and surveying people and having interviews. That kind of qualitative analysis research is stuff that I'm good at. And I didn't realize that until I was well into my 30s. So there was a good period of 10 or 15 years after high school where I felt like a loser, basically. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of the background story. But to get back on track to today, sorry for the deviation there, but that story just popped into my head, so I thought I'd tell it. So today, I'm kind of running a bit of a loose structure, and I'm going to call the episode "Can Freedom Pay the Rent?" because I have a life in Japan that is very different to the life in Australia that I had. And like everything in life, there's positive experiences that come out of new experiences, and there's also negatives because things are no longer the same to how you got used to them. But in that, you start to learn new lessons and find new pathways. And I thought I'd talk about that kind of gap between what freedom is and what providing for my own life, but my family is like as well, and that kind of gap. So, welcome to today's podcast. This is the second one in a row I've done. I've actually committed to doing this every week. And as I said in my intro in week one, I'm hoping to not make this always about things that have happened to me. I'd love to get other guests on and kind of working through that process now. But as it always is, you got to start somewhere, and this is where I'm starting. So hopefully from this podcast, you might learn a little bit more about me and learn a little bit more about what freedom means to you, and if that's something that you want to pursue, and the risks that go along with that. So I live in Fukushima City in Japan. I call it a regional city because there's only about 200,000 people here. It's not a very big city in Japanese standards. And you get that sense that you're in a regional city once you kind of come out to near where I live, because it's at the base of this huge mountain range, and there are more and more agricultural plots. So there's a lot of peach farming, rice. At the moment, there's cherries. So it's kind of cherry season. The peaches are starting to get, the trees are starting to bear the fruit, and farmers are selecting which ones they're going to focus on to harvest for this year. Pick. I'm not sure what that term is, but yeah, the rice has just been planted the beginning of May. So we're in this wet season at the moment, and the rice is starting to grow. So it's a regional city. And when you move to a place like this as a foreigner, you really start to realize that you're a big fish in a small pond, which is a kind of a cool thing, but it's also not, because you can be this kind of like cool, mysterious foreigner guy from Australia that people want to interact with you, and they want to create all these opportunities. But the reality of that is, when it comes time to fleshing out some of these opportunities, it doesn't always pan out the way you think it would or could. And part of that is recognizing how Japan works. And there are things that I'm still learning about Japanese society and understanding what the reality is versus what people just say as a way of being nice. That is a learned skill that I read about a lot of on LinkedIn. It seems like it's quite a popular topic for people to discuss that and mention it to people on their network, because Japan's become quite a popular place for people around the world to come. So understanding that culture is important. But it's still something that I never really knew about, and I've been coming here and living here on and off for 26, 27 years now. So, um, but yeah, so those are the kind of things that come up that you don't realize you're not expecting, because I find that in Australia, for example, when you're talking with people, it's genuinely and generally because people want to do something. They're talking with you because they want something from you, you want something from them. You have a conversation about doing something work related, work materializes from that. You agree on something, you pay each other, and then you either part ways or you keep working. That's kind of my experience in the past. So that's what I'm kind of used to. But if I feel like it's a little bit different here, there's a lot more relationship building, trust building, and those things take a long time. I've been here 4 years and I still feel like I've broken into the communities I want to tap into. But now with that, I think there's a deeper level of trust that needs to be built, because we're moving from a friendship basis where you know, I'm one of the guys here in that community, and to doing actual monetary exchange business. So it's an interesting space to play in. But the reason, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was that, so since I've been here, prior to working at in kind of like online copywriting, marketing, digital marketing, all that kind of stuff that I tout myself as, over the last 4 years or so, I was working at a bank, kind of doing the same thing with a completely different title. But at the end of the day, it was kind of communications, marketing, that type of stuff, internal marketing, external marketing, B2B, all that kind of stuff. So when I moved to Fukushima in 2022 with my wife, I had a year off work. And so I thought I'd start doing the online thing, because it's, people are still kind of in that COVID mindset. People are working from home. There was that huge boom through 2020 to 2022 of people using their free time to start doing things online and trying to leverage some money out of that. And so that's what I did. I started to call myself a marketing consultant and doing people's websites and writing the copy for websites and things like that. But over the last 4 years, I've really just come to terms with the fact that it's, for me, it's a hard slog. I don't feel like I've gained what I hoped I would, or what you see gurus marketing online. I've done a few things that up until probably midway last year have been able to sustain somewhat of a life here. But I feel that's run its course now. And as I said, I kind of feel like everybody's doing this. Everybody's talking about AI marketing, the prompt for this, how to build a 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure business in just a few simple prompts on ChatGPT, and building content management systems for people. I just got really sick of that noise, and I don't feel like it's me and what my core values are at the end of the day. So I start of this year, I decided to kind of just stop doing that. And one thing about me is that I like to try new things. That's a nice way of saying that I start and stop a lot of things as well. Um, I get tired of what I see as my output. And early this year, I was selling content marketing because I thought that would be a good way to tap into people on LinkedIn who maybe aren't using it to their advantage. And I saw that maybe by doing some regular type of content strategy would help those clients. But as I said, I got sick of it and I started to feel disingenuous and really not following the things that matter to me. And the fact that I see everyone else kind of, maybe it's because I was that person, so therefore the algorithm showed that to me as well. I got sick of seeing that of everyone else. So I've turned the tide of, I don't know what that phrase is. Sorry. I probably say a lot of wrong things during this because I'm talking off the cuff with some very loose structure here. But um, I decided that I think I should start looking for a career job again, because if I'm to live in Japan for a long time and provide for my family and help set up my son's future, and I hate this term, but generational wealth, set my son up so he's okay in the future and he's able to make the right choices for him in his life. That's what I want to do. That's my focus. And so finding a job that can facilitate that here in Japan is something that I think I want to do. So I've shifted my focus into that because for 40 hours of the week or Monday to through Friday, instead of trying to hack LinkedIn and build customers and follow up with people who ghost you and take people on their word that there's potential work that never comes. I'm really tired of that, where I'd rather just earn a certain amount every month and plan my life with my family around that. So, and then that gives me more inspiration to do other things outside of that because I know that I've got a little bit of play money that I could invest into something that I want to do that matters to me. But I've also got this regular money coming in that I can help my family change the position that we're currently in, moving out of this small apartment and maybe making a move into a bigger place. But in that time as well, it's kind of opened my eyes up to, are there actually any jobs in Japan for somebody who lives in regional Japan? Because feel like I've looked quite hard for jobs around the area that I'm in, Tohoku, so the surrounding cities and what have you. I'd be more than prepared to drive to or take public transport to a larger city and go and work in an office there if it was for the right thing. But I don't see anything that kind of matches my ability to work in Japan. And there are a few things missing, like my ability to speak fluent business Japanese. I don't have that. So, but I can speak Japanese well enough to get by in my life. But business Japanese is a whole new game. So that leaves me with remote work or relocating to Tokyo to work. Maybe there'd be more opportunities for somebody like me to work in Tokyo. But again, I'm going to have to move to Tokyo and Uh, my wife has a job here. My son has a life here. So I don't want to uproot them from their lives just so I can earn some money and then be away from them 5 days a week and then come home for the weekend and then rinse and repeat that life. That's like living a whole separate life 5 days a week where I don't know who I am and I just feel like I'm in limbo. So that's off the table for me. So again, narrows down my ability to be picky and choosy about what type of work I want to do. So that really leaves me up to remote work. And remote work is kind of drying up. People want staff, or businesses want staff to go back to the office, which I get. So I feel like Japan is kind of running its course for me from that perspective. So that's kind of what has led my wife and I to have some serious conversations about where we're going to live, because I feel like as a 47-year-old with a good amount of experience, both academically and in real life, I feel like that I've only got a few years left of where I'm able to apply for jobs that have kind of any meat around them. So we've been thinking about going home by the end of this year, truth be told. But then, yeah, leaving here feels like it's kind of like a bit of a bittersweet, like a like a failed as well, because the things that matter to me, while it's great to have that regular job, the things that matter to me are community and working with my friends and making something that's fun that people can enjoy and giving a bit of life and spirit to the place that I live with my personality coming through whatever venture I'm doing. And that's kind of starting to sprout small opportunities. And what really gets me confused as a person is that crossroads moment where I've only got a few years left where I feel like I've only got a few years left where I can apply for good jobs that pay well. I can support my family and blah, 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 blah. Or do I take something that hasn't materialized into any kind of monetary thing, kind of like the online world, but doing it in real life? And those things, as I said, are sprouting opportunities. I recently just got asked to make coffee at the Fukushima City Art Museum and Library. It's a big, beautiful complex at the base of this mountain that just pops out near this Fukushima station. Beautiful old building, and in there is a really popular curry restaurant that my now friend, new acquaintance, and new, I guess, business contact has been operating there for quite a few years. And he runs this successful business with multiple sites and different types of revenue streams, that he's the first person I've met that has really got a good understanding of business and predicting what happens in the future and writing out situations like now with cost of living increases in Japan and wage increases not really kind of matching that, yet he's still able to have a really solid customer base and build upon that and find new ways to get new customers. Um, yeah, he's invited me into his space to start serving coffees as a breakfast thing. So while they're doing all the prep for the restaurant, the shop's kind of already open, that he wants some of that foot traffic that's going to go to the art museum and the library to pop in for a coffee. And it's a super low risk way for me to start a business because I'm not paying any rent, utilities, or anything like that. But I can start uh, getting customers through his customer base and the foot traffic in that building. And one thing I know about Japan is that there's not really a morning culture, coffee culture. Everything kind of seems to start around about 10 a.m. here, including coffee. And for a big coffee drinker like me, that's way too late. I want my coffee around about 7 or earlier, depending on when I wake up. But I know that there's people out there who want the same thing, and there's nothing in place to kind of facilitate that that I know of, other than things like Starbucks. But I am really excited about that opportunity, and it is a good way for me to kind of circumnavigate a lot of the challenges that happen when you're a foreigner trying to start a business here, because some of the things that I find that's really hard, and I don't really know fully as well, because as I said, my Japanese is good, but it's only good enough. There's some complex things that I just don't know how to get help for, and I'm a very independent person. But a lot of those things also require my wife to get involved, and then I'm sharing the risk and the financial risk with my wife, and it's just not something that I'm prepared to do yet, getting a rental space or applying for finance. And I don't think I'd even get any of those things because I'm a foreigner. It's just kind of how it is here. Um, so I need to get like a guarantor from my wife. Maybe if I lived here as a permanent resident and I'd been living here for years and years, or references or whatever, it might be different. But I feel like there's a few things going against me at the moment. But I've got this opportunity to operate in a space where I don't have to worry about any of those things. And trialing out coffee on the weekend gives me a chance to flex my muscle in that space and work out what kind of customers are coming, get a bit of data, and start to understand what I'm doing and whether it is worthwhile pursuing or expanding upon. And if I've got that kind of background data, then I can maybe discuss this with my wife, and we might be able to take that plunge, or go into partnership with somebody who is able to access the rental and the finance and the startup costs that come with having a shop. So yeah, this is a really good opportunity for me to get going, and I've got a good indication of how many customers might be coming, so that I can kind of use that basis to understand that a percentage of that might result in coffee sales for me. So then I can start making some assumptions, and yeah, getting an idea of what um, revenue I might get from a business like this. So yeah, I've had a bit of an interesting ride being here in Japan, going from a company employee back in Australia, taking a year off, trying to be Mr. Online Marketing and tap into that world, and not really feeling like it's bared fruit in the way that I thought it would. Buying a million courses in that process and wasting a ton of money there. Meanwhile, the people selling the courses are making tons of money off people like me. Um, to kind of deciding that that's not for me, and deciding that maybe finding a, a career job again might be the right thing to do. And while I've got this really cool opportunity that's starting to blossom, is it really going to be enough for me to stay? Because I'm starting to realize that, well, at the start of the year, I realized that the writing's on the wall for me, it feels, because I'm running out of savings, and I've got a life back in Australia that I still need to keep, topping up here and there, so that requires savings as well. So we've got this kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing in Australia happening. Meanwhile, I'm not making any money, well, enough money to survive in Japan with potential opportunities to grow. So the writing on the wall to me sounds like I need to go back to Australia and kind of give up on some of the things that are really important to me as well. So that that community, that human interaction, all for money. So I love the freedom of Japan, but I miss the regularity of being able to pay rent. And, some people might laugh at that, saying, well, you can do whatever you want because you don't have any job or responsibilities. But maybe I want responsibilities and maybe I want a job because, as I said, my purpose is greater than me now. My son to, I want to take my goal, my main goal is to take my son to Disneyland with my wife and go and spend a few days there and have a really fun time. That's just a basic goal, and that people who have regular income, regular jobs can plan to do that. But at the moment, I can't do that. That's not something that I can do without feeling this anxiety of spending a big chunk of money of my savings that I need right now to be able to kind of maintain a little bit of a life here, support my family with what I can, and pay to keep things going back home. So, yeah, it's that crossroads. Taking a job is important to me because I love being able to grow and change and build and work with people and talk to people. But being an online marketer that, is trying to sell to other people online means that you spend a whole lot of your day at home. So, and then running a coffee shop and doing kind of things outside of with the community, which I really love, gives me that human interaction in a completely different way to working in a company environment. I feel like if you're working in the community with customers, that you can start to cultivate these really nice relationships. You build regular repeat customers who come in and want to talk, or they want to, share a problem. Uh, you know, they want to become friends, and yeah, there's all these kind of like really beautiful things that come out of that as well. So yeah, I listening to myself talking about this still tells me that I'm at a big crossroads, and I know that going back to Australia is more than likely going to happen because it's the best and most practical solution for our family. But then it is also going to give me this sense that I might have failed or given up on Japan, and then I miss out on those pure, human kind of moments that are really important in this day and age where people are spending so much time online. In Japan, you can still get that offline community conversation, people who love to talk. Like that's such a, yeah, really nice thing that I feel like if I go home, I will lose that. Um, I feel like being in Australia I'm a different person in Australia to how I am in Japan. I'm a I feel like I'm a better, more outgoing person, and a better version of myself when I'm in Japan because I don't have any kind of like preconceived um, notions about how I should interact with people, I can be the person that I've always wanted to be because I'm different. And yeah, I don't know, there's something really unique about that. So yeah, that's I'm at I'm at a really difficult spot in my decision making in my life, and but I know what the right decision is. So really it's just a matter of time, and pending anything happening while I'm in Japan before we leave, like a an ideal remote working job, or the ability to work from home as much as possible and maybe make a commute into Tokyo or wherever else as a kind of like a once a week type of thing. If those opportunities present themselves, that completely changes the game. And then it makes my um, the things that I want to do outside of my work more important to me, and the things that I can slowly grow over time. And I think that gives me a more well-rounded life than what I might get back home. But I'm also mindful of the fact that my life is not just about me. My life is about my son and my wife, and I want them to have things that matter to them as well. And then finding that middle ground that suits us all. I love watching my son grow up in Japan. It's one of the nicest things I've ever experienced. And I think my wife wants to be in Australia. She loves Japan for certain reasons, but I love watching her in Australia. So we've all kind of got these different things that are triggering our desire to be somewhere or not. And my son's too young to really decide where he wants to live at the moment. But just from a observational point of view, I love watching him grow up here. When we were back in Australia a few months ago, it was beautiful to watch him growing up there and hanging out with Aussie kids and my cousins and going to parks and all of that thing. That was next level. But as soon as we got back to Japan, I had almost forgotten about it until just now. So yeah, so that's pretty much today. Kind of there's no answer to this yet, but I'm sure one will kind of present itself over time and very soon, because if nothing happens in the next few months, we're going to go home. And but home's home, and home is wherever we're going to be. So that's kind of a bit of a background. Sorry if I've kind of jumped here and there, but I'm still kind of learning how to do this. I'm not really much of a talker, especially straight into a screen. So I've been trying to follow some format, and hopefully I can learn on how to improve that over time. And hopefully in the next few weeks, I can get somebody on where we can discuss something other than what's going on in my life. But until then, you might hear a few more podcasts from me. Uh, I'd like to talk about some of the research that I'm doing. That might not be a very kind of high view type of thing, but it's important to me. So I want to talk about things that are important to me. And that revolves around workplace well-being and finding a way that allows people who are working in an environment how they can have more choice to make decisions that impact their day-to-day work. So that's something that's really important to me. Or it might be about music or one of the other things that I enjoy talking about. But Japan's definitely a big one for me. It's probably going to be in here a lot because that's my life. Um, and I've got a lot of things to say about it. I think that my perspective, and I think that of people who live in more of a regional or remote area in Japan have very unique perspectives that don't get picked up by things like TikTok and Instagram because they don't trend as much. There's a lot more depth to, I feel, to the rural and regional parts of Japan because having been coming to Japan for such a long time, this reminds me of what Japan was like when I first came here. So that's why I absolutely love being here. It's so much more laid back. You can drive around. It's cool. So yeah, anyway, stay tuned until next time. Again, I'll post this on Substack and I'm going to post it on YouTube. So if you'd like to subscribe to either, that would be really helpful. And if you've got any feedback or any questions on things that you want to hear or how I can do this better, that would really help me make this channel closer to what I want it to be. So thanks, and I'll speak to you again soon. Cheers.